Hello and welcome to Indo Politics. Today we are joined by a guest, Valérie Hayer, a French MEP who is a member of the Renaissance Party of the French President Emmanuel Macron. She's also the president of the Renew Group in the European Parliament, which is a centrist group and includes Irish MEPs from Fianna Fáil, as well as Michael McNamara and Kieran Malooly. So Valérie, thank you so much for joining us on Indo Politics. You've been in Ireland for a couple of days now. How has your experience been? How have you found it?
First, I really love the country, the spirit, the energy of the people who are so warm and friendly. Unfortunately, I hadn't time to enjoy more because we have a lot of meetings, but really for us as the Renew political group, it was important to travel to Ireland before the Irish presidency to convey a strong political message that we are on the side of the Irish government for this very important presidency. And this is also an opportunity to spend time together and to go in, now we are in Dublin, but we spent 3 times in Cork, the constituency of and the home city of quite a lot of great Irish politicians, of course, of the Taoiseach, of the Commissioner Michael McGrath, but also of our first Vice President Billy Kelleher. So for all of these reasons, it was important for us to travel to Cork and Dublin.
Very good. And as you say, you're here just as Ireland is preparing to take over the EU presidency. Its priorities are being launched this afternoon. But the presidency comes at a really challenging time for Europe, doesn't it? Whether it's our relationship with the United States, threats from Russia. What is the expectation now, do you believe, from Europeans on Ireland during this presidency?
Indeed, this presidency comes at a pivotal moment. This is the moment for Europe to be stronger and to be more independent. And indeed, there is a high level of expectation, I would say, from other countries, but also from all the pro-European and democrat forces around Europe with vis-à-vis Irish presidency, because we share same values, same commitment, same commitment vis-à-vis Europe, and also because Ireland is one of the greatest success of the European Union, and because with the current government we share a strong commitment for Europe and also the same view with an open Europe out for the looking.
And what should our sort of policy priorities be? For example, you've been critical of Donald Trump. You have said that you've said that the EU needs to, take a firmer stance with Donald Trump and play hardball with him at times. Is this something that we need to develop more in the European Union and that can develop over the next couple of months during Ireland's presidency? And for that reason, would you be concerned that Ireland also has very close relations with the United States as much as Europe?
I think we should be lucid about the new relationship vis-à-vis the US. I would not say US as such, I would say vis-à-vis and now with Trump administration. We should be independent. It doesn't mean that we should not engage with the US. On the contrary, we should continue to engage with the US because we have a lot of common and we have a lot of common interest. But we should be stronger, we should be more independent so that we can have our own policy, own priorities. And I think be it on energy, be it on economy, be it on geopolitical issues, we should have our own stance on our own security also. We should consider now that, of course, every time we can engage with the US, we do that. But now, with such an instability with Donald Trump, we should be more independent so that to make our own choices for our future.
And you've also been quite vocal in your support for Ukraine and your criticism of Russia. What do you think needs to happen during Ireland's EU presidency in relation to that particular war?
So now we have the current developments with Ukraine and the important meeting in UK a few days ago with President Zelensky, Keir Starmer, President Macron and Friedrich Merz, that was not only symbolic, that was also a strong statement supporting Ukraine. And I know that the Taoiseach and the Irish government in Ireland is very supportive of Ukraine. So we have to continue to support Ukraine. We have to continue with the sanctions vis-à-vis Russia and to give all the support for vis-à-vis Ukraine, of course.
And one thing that's a sort of topic of discussion and controversy here in Ireland, but actually in the wider European Union at the moment, is a particular plant in the west of Ireland called Auchanish Alumna. It provides raw materials which is making its way to companies that trade with companies that supply weapons in Russia. So essentially, some critics say that this factory is feeding Russia's war machine. Do you think Europe needs to do more to sanction this particular company?
First, I've understood that there are investigations on this situation. I think this is important. So we support investigations to have a full transparency on the situation, so that also to secure the support to Ukraine. So, and then to take appropriate measures. And you know that we have always and consistently called for tougher sanctions on Russia. And I know that you are absolutely united also with the Irish government on that.
And if these investigations confirm what journalistic investigations have shown, which is that this material is making its way to companies that supply weapons, I mean, what should happen? Should this make its way onto the EU sanction list, for example?
Let's see what about the results, but it could be one of the results. But as I said, investigations first, assessment, and then appropriate measure, with a strong line which is support to Ukraine and sanctions vis-à-vis Russia.
And do you think the sanctions list issued by the European Commission this week went far enough? It's the 21st sanctions list, and obviously if you're getting to 21, the previous 20 may have not been strong enough. So are they going far enough, the latest sanctions list, do you think?
You know, from the day one of the war aggression of Russia and Ukraine, we took sanctions, tough sanctions, but we have to adapt because sanctions are circumvented. And so that's why we have all these packages, and Europe has to adapt his sanctions package. So that's why now we have other sanctions. What has to be said is that sanctions hurted the Russian economy. And that's why we should continue, because it is a strong support to Ukraine to continue to sanction Russia.
Okay, and another topic here at the moment, we have a piece of legislation going through the Irish Parliament, the Occupied Territories Bill, which seeks to ban trade with Israel, but it's only trade on goods and not trade on services. And the Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said that he would prefer Europe to go further in trade sanctions with Israel and to think about suspending the EU-Israel Association Agreement. Is that something you would support?
First of all, as Renew, we have a very strong position supporting of this two-state solution and sanctions against Israel and that doesn't respect the law and the international law and doesn't respect the Palestinian side. And of course, we should go further with this suspension of the trade part of the association agreement. So the Irish government would have the full support of the Renew Group. Now the problem is that it is stuck. We have a position of the Parliament on that. President von der Leyen made a strong position on that too. Now it is stuck because of member states.
Full support of Renew in going how far? Would you support the suspension of that agreement?
Yes, we want to have a suspension of the trade part of the agreement.
Is that something member states, do you think, might agree to eventually if they're coming under enough pressure?
I hope so. We have to be very clear. We as Renew are supportive of the international law. We should use all our leverages to make sure that this international law is fully respected. Now, this is not the case anymore. The situation is very sensitive, very difficult, and this is an old one. Of course, the attack of 7th of October 2023 was awful, and we should do all what we can to fight against Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, but also to go in the direction of the two-state solution, which is the only situation where the two people, the two communities from Israel and from Palestine are respected.
There was a confidence motion in Ursula von der Leyen recently. Renew Europe supported Ursula von der Leyen, I think, ultimately in that confidence motion. But there were some Irish MEPs who voted no confidence in her. And their argument was that she was turning a blind eye to the actions of Israel in Palestine. Do you have some sympathy with that perspective expressed by some Irish MEPs, not the Renew Europe MEPs, but do you think Ursula von der Leyen has done herself some damage in the eyes of European Parliament or European citizens in her policy on Israel?
First of all, it's not an easy task. You are mentioning Ursula von der Leyen, but we have also Kaja Kallas, our High Representative on Foreign Affairs. This is not an easy task to represent the members and the European Union on geopolitical issues and on diplomatical issues, because we have 27 countries, 27 histories, 27 culture, and 27 way of leading with other countries. Second, and unfortunately, the member states are still divided on the way they prioritize some situation, especially in the Middle East. I regret it. And what I see is that a few years ago, still the Parliament was still a bit divided on the situation, which is less and less the case. We have and we share the common view that things should go in the direction of the two-state solution. And I think Ursula von der Leyen understood that for the first time, or at least during her last State of the Union speech, September last year, she made a clear commitment vis-à-vis the Middle East and the war and the relationship between Israel and Gaza. And we pushed her also to announce, to make strong announcement, especially the suspension of the trade association agreement. So that was new, that was strong from her side. So I think she really understood that she needed to move on and to pass the way.
There will be some focus during Ireland's presidency of the European Union on our defence capabilities, our defence spending, which is minuscule in comparison, to other European countries. France, I think, increased spending by, was it 3.5 billion? Is there an attitude in Europe or a belief in Europe that Ireland needs to perhaps do more for its own defences?
First, Ireland is a neutral country and everybody in the EU knows that and respects that, so that's important. But indeed, we have, considering the current geopolitical situation, we should make sure that we continue to live in a safe space in Europe and in the European Union, and that's why you have to engage more to ensure our security. And I understood that the current government, Irish government, decided to raise the funding for defense and security, which is good. We have to take all our part in that.
The EU Migration Pact is coming into effect this week, at the end of this week. Do you think Europe has in some ways maybe been too liberal in its migration policy in recent years, and maybe now it's overcompensating with a migration policy that's almost too restrictive or not compassionate enough?
First, we are talking again about migration because we are talking about the return regulation. I would like to remind that we have done a lot on migration in the previous term. We adopted several pieces of legislation on the Migration and Asylum Pact. The purpose is to fight against illegal migration and, of course, respecting our values, respecting the humanitarian law, and respecting the asylum law too and rules. We also have to be firm vis-à-vis those and the people who can't have access to the European Union. So that's why we worked a lot on this pact, which is very important. And then we have this return regulation because the return are not enough coordinated between the member states, and we should do more. I would not say that Europe was too liberal and that we changed the view. We had rules. We have to adapt the rules because we have more and more people willing to to join Renew, and we should, I think, be firm but also balanced. This is our honor to continue to welcome asylum seekers in Europe. We also need migration for our day-to-day life. I can imagine that in Ireland you need also migrants for your economy, and they are very well welcomed and integrated in your society as it is in France. But we should really tackle illegal migration. We should make sure that the people that can't stay in Europe has to leave. Having said that, the new legislation, we have not voted yet, is really criticized because within the legislation there is for different reasons, but there is something which are called the return hub, which is to have agreement with other countries, extra European countries, and to have agreement with them to give money, and so that they can deal with the migrants. Some countries have pushed for having this return hub. Personally, I can tell you, I think this is a very bad idea. For different reasons, for humanitarian reasons, but also I think it would cost a lot for something that is our sovereignty and our competence. So I think we should first and foremost implement the Asylum and Migration Pact with this center at the borders of Europe, and then having a better coordination within the member states for the return.
So what would your concerns be about these return hubs?
First, we had some attempts from other countries in the past. UK with Rwanda, for example. At the end of the day, I think it was 300 billion pounds at this moment of time, and it has never been implemented. In another situation, Albania with Italy, it was a lot of money, and so it costs a lot. We don't have any insurance that the human rights are respected. And we have also the example with Turkey. You have an agreement with Turkey. We give money to Turkey. And depending on the state of the relationship, Turkey sometimes open the borders or close the borders. So it means we put ourselves in the hands of other countries. Personally, I think this is not the right way to deal with the illegal migration, because at the end of the day we should make sure that we continue to control also and to be respectful of humanitarian aid, and also because of in this center families and young people in the current situation could go also in this hub return.
So would that be a position of Renew Europe, or is that a personal view of yours?
We are still discussing about our position. You know, this is a very sensitive issue depending on the national debate in our country. We are 78 members from 23 different countries, and depending on the debate, the national debate, you can have different perspectives. So we'll have the discussion next week.
So the Irish government does appear to be in favour of this scheme of return hubs. Would you make any appeal to them to reconsider, or?
As I told you, I have my personal position. We'll see where the group is, and as a matter of principle, I respect every position that has been from every country.
Renew Europe is a centrist group in the European Parliament. Do you think politics of the centre can hold? Does it have a future, given that it is coming under a lot of pressure from the left, but also there is more of a kind of far right, extreme right, making a name for itself in the European Parliament now and across European member states?
Yes, we see populist and far right and far left rising and having more and more voters. This is the case in every country in Europe. I would say maybe Ireland is a good, could be a good inspiration also of doing politics. I'm still convinced that there is place for the center. At the European Parliament, from the day one of this term, we are the bridge builders. We are those who continuously try to make the pro-European, the Democrats, forces to work together. And we are very attractive, and also we gain some new members that are in other groups, but that consider that Renew group is more influential, is a more influential group. We are seeking for solutions. We want to give hope and optimism and trust to the people. We want to give answers, concrete answers to the solution of our people. And I don't want that as we saw, when you look at part of EPP and part of socialists at the European level, they are part of socialists are running after their far left, and part of EPP is running after their far right. I think we should continuously believe in concrete solutions, no populism. Indeed, the timing is quite difficult for nuance, but we should continue and just give 2 examples. In Ireland, your country is still a country where there is, of course, debates, but still nuance, concrete solutions with Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael also working together, and some independence. So I think we should also draw inspiration on the way in Ireland you are still doing politics. And let's look at Netherlands with Rob Jetten, who is a Renew Prime Minister. In Netherlands, far right is very high and was very high and is still very high. But Rob came into the debate, he made a very optimistic campaign with very concrete solution for people. So I think we should still continue to be lucid, to be optimistic, to give hope, and to come with first concrete solution to our day-to-day life, on energy, on economy, on human rights, and also give a vision for the next 10 and 20 years. And that's also what we are doing with the Renew Group.
And you mentioned the EPP chasing the far right. Can you give some examples of how the EPP MEPs in the European Parliament are doing that?
I would say on different examples, but on migration, I can tell it. On Green Deal, for example, some of EPP are more and more looking and dealing with the far right, either for ideological reasons or strategical reasons. And I'm convinced this is not the right strategy, because if you want to continue to deliver for citizens at the European level, you can't do it with the far right. You can't do it with the far left. Impossible. If you want to have concrete solution, you should do it at the center.
You spoke about the Netherlands, but France will have a presidential election, I think, in about a year's time. And you were part of Emmanuel Macron's party. This will be a crucial election, won't it, in France, not just for France, but for the future of Europe. Do you think the far right could win that election and win the presidential office in France?
This election is important indeed, but it matters for France, but not only it matters for Europe indeed. As I said, we see the far right rising and populism rising everywhere in Europe, outside of Europe. If you look at America with Donald Trump and the MAGA connection, they are very present and they are very active. Now, I think, to give you an overview about the public debate in France, now the question is not anymore, are you against or in favor of Europe? Because now the far right, for example, in France, doesn't call for Frexit anymore. 10 years ago, they called for Frexit. Part of the far right is still calling, but the Rassemblement National doesn't call for Frexit anymore.
Frexit, France leaving
exactly,
the EU.
Frexit meaning France leaving the EU, because they understood that French people would be afraid about that. So they decided to change their narrative. But when you look at their position, when they say we will not take part or contribute to the European budget and so on, you can be part of the club, but not to give any money. So it doesn't exist. But they really changed their narrative. So I think, and looking for what is the far right doing at the European level, the question tomorrow will be, who will lead Europe? Who will lead the European Union? And of course, for part of the far right, having Viktor Orban in responsibility in Hungary was a strength, and Viktor Orban was, and he was the leader who built this illiberal democracy. So what I say to our voters in France is just look at the ally of the Rassemblement National at the European level. This is Viktor Orban. This is other people who undermined democracy, who gave hope, but at the end of the day, they just destroyed the rule of law, destroyed democracy, destroyed the economy. But so that's up to us to convince the French voters that and to show what is the far right in responsibility, and also to give them hope again, optimism again, as we managed to do 10 years ago.
And the consequences of the right being elected into that office or being successful in that election, what do you think it would mean for Europe?
First, I would fight for this not happening and for still having a pro-European president and democratic president being elected at France. But indeed, having the far right elected in France would change the dynamic and the rotation of Europe. For sure, because they are, as I said, they changed their narrative, but they are Eurosceptical. And at the end of the day, they say we are not against Europe, we just want Europe of the nations. But this is still populism, nationalisms. How do you want to work between nationalisms? Until now, they have common interest against Europe, and they manage to work together more or less. But at the end of the day, it would kill our European project. It would damage the dynamic within Europe.
And finally, you became the president of the Renew Group. I think you were 37, 38 years old. Will you be going for a second term?
This is too early to discuss about it. What I can tell you is that I'm really proud to be a member of the Renew Group. I'm really proud to be the leader of the Renew Group. I have great colleagues, especially my Irish colleagues, with the head of delegation, Billy Kelleher, and also Michael McNamara and Kiran Muloli. We are a very attractive group. As I said, we attract new members that were in other political groups, and we will continue to attract. We are seen as a very influential group, and I have still lots of projects for the European group. And what is important for us is to make that Europe become stronger and more independent. So lots to do still.
Valérie, thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching Indo Politics. For more, you can follow Indo Politics on the Irish Independent YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.